So my name is Jahnvi Patel. I am from South Jersey. I live in Marlton, and I went to undergrad at Rutgers University from 2017 to 2020. And during the peak of COVID, I took a gap year and did my paralegal certification from 2020 to 2021. And I just started law school in 2021 at Villanova, Charles Widger School of Law, and I am also now in their MBA program, and I plan to finish both by 2024. And I have been very involved in undergrad and in law school in organizations that are very important to me. For example, like the First Generation Lawyers Group or Fashion Law Society. And I'm a first generation student, and my parents are immigrants from India.
Wonderful. That's so cool. They didn't have that. We discussed, they didn't have either of those when I was there. So it's so great to hear that they've got groups like that. I'm also a first generation lawyer, and I think I would have benefited from that. What was your undergrad?
Yep. So my major in undergrad was political science and psychology. And then towards the end of my program, I decided to add on a law minor.
Okay. What made you want to go to law school?
So my dad was an attorney in India, and when he immigrated to the United States, his credits didn't transfer over. So he either had the decision to go to law school for 2 years or start working. And since there was a language barrier and he needed to start working so my mom could immigrate to the US, he decided to not pursue law school here. And he ended up working at a gas station and eventually moved to the New Jersey Department of Insurance. And throughout life, I think I've just gotten a lot of feedback from him about what it was like to be a lawyer. And I think that made me kind of love the idea of becoming a lawyer. And as I went through school, I learned that a lot of my interests kind of resided in like English or in history. So that was more my speed. And I also think being an advocate for others is very important to me. As an undergrad, I worked as an intern for the New Jersey Constituent Services Office and for the clerk's office of the New Jersey Superior Court. And I think the law started to evolve in my mind, and I saw different aspects of it. And those internships kind of connected me more to the field.
Great. Yeah, it's interesting how we all have our own paths to where we are and the twists and turns and people that have influenced you in your life. What about business school? What made you want to do that?
So not having a background in like an economics or business standpoint when I started law school made me realize that a lot of the law connects with that aspect. 9 times out of 10, our clients will be corporations or entities, and I wanted to understand why a corporation would make the decisions that they do.
Right. I do agree with you a lot. It's inextricably intertwined with most legal issues, I think. Well, as business lawyers, I guess it's kind of the only thing I've known. But what are your hobbies?
So I love to read books when I can that aren't law related. And I love to travel, be in nature, and I love to hang out with my family and my friends.
Where was the last place you traveled to?
The last place I traveled to was Dubai on my way to India with my family, and it was my favorite by far.
What year was that?
I'd say 2018.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah.
Tell us something others don't know about you.
So when I was younger, I did dance for 15 years, and that's something that a lot of people know about me, but what others don't know about me is that I still try to involve some sort of dance or music in my life one way or another. My favorite part of my day is to sit in my car and just listen to music on my drive to school, which is why I prefer having a longer drive to school sometimes. And just having a moment with music calms me down.
Yeah, absolutely. What kind of law do you want to practice?
So I have a few interests right now. My top being corporate law and then employment. And I know corporate and employment law is a big entryway into fashion law as you go through your career. So I would end up, I would be glad to end up in some sort of in-house counsel in a fashion sort of company if I can down the line.
Okay, great. What tips do you have for lawsuits now that you're in your second year?
So I guess first being that try to remember that law school is not a race, it's a marathon. Even though you have so many due dates and assignments with exams and papers coming up, that doesn't mean that once you get through, you're done. You kind of have to keep rolling your wheels and remembering that your goal is to graduate and pass the bar. And these assignments are a learning process. And I also think along with that, something else that I want other people to know is that not everyone knows it all. As you go through assignments, it's okay to not know concepts or readings, might not come as easier to you as it comes to others. And the third thing I would say also ties into that is office hours. If you ever need to talk out concepts or ask questions, going to office hours and talking to your professor is one of the best things that you could do.
Absolutely. I remember my first year torts professor, Professor O'Brien. He wore a 3-piece suit to class. I had it at, I think it was 8 a.m. or 8:30. It was very early. And I stay up late at night. So I was always like sleep deprived and super nervous that I'd be late for class. I never was, thank the Lord. But he just really made me want to be a lawyer. He talked torts. And he said, know what you don't know. And don't be afraid to ask questions. And so I think it's just like a fundamental concept with anything that you're trying to figure out. Just know what you don't know and ask the question and have the courage to ask the questions. A lot of people, they don't have the courage to do it. I know they're afraid. There's an element of fear, but and then what 3 tips would you give for an associate now that you've had a couple, some experience under your belt and you worked with us and you'll be working with another firm this summer? What 3 tips would you have?
So my first tip would be that grades are not determinative of how good of an attorney someone is. At the end of the day, becoming an attorney and practicing law is very similar to the concepts that you learn in law school, but it's not the same. You have to use a different set of skills. And I think a lot of the times that our system in law school is very much like, if you don't have the best grades, you're not going to succeed. And that's not entirely true.
Right.
Second, be nice and respectful to everyone. I've seen a lot of people that have been so nice, and I think it gets you so far in our field. And I think sometimes attorneys have preconceived notions in the public eye that we're not the nicest people, but the nicer you are, I think it'll help you out with your career as well. And third, remember that you're an advocate for your client and you're not arguing with the opposing side's attorney. This summer, when I was interning for a judge in New Jersey, we encountered a situation where 2 attorneys for both different sides were doing a negotiation and we never came down to a conclusion. And I remember the judge telling me this is something that you do not want to do in your career, because not only is it a waste of your time and the judge's time, but it's also a waste of your client's time, which you don't want.
Right. Well, I think that's excellent advice. I appreciate this so much. And
thank you
for your time. I'll talk to you in a little bit.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.